Welcome back to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I'm your host, Rolitza Spasova, and today we have a very special guest, Raven from Heartfelt Whole Self. Welcome, Raven, to the Authenticity Calling podcast. It is so beautiful to have you here.
Mm, absolutely, my pleasure, Relitza. I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank
Thank
you. And you know what? I think we'll skip titles completely and we'll just dive right in to the conversation if that's okay. I know that you do some work with alchemy and soul midwifing and really helping people to connect to their genuine, their soul spirit calling. Is that right? Rather than, whatever other masks or achievements or accomplishments we think we're here to be here for.
Yeah, yeah, it's a journey of many things, and it usually always brings me back to grief. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So I call myself many things, but I'm definitely a grief walker. Yeah, and so when you're coming into alignment with your soul calling and living that soul purpose, you're really always letting go of who you think you are. Yeah. And so it's a walk of shedding. It's a walk of, the serpent.
Yeah,
Which
we
is,
it's so fascinating too because I think a lot of people talk about um, ego deaths, and it's a very hot word. It's going around, right? When we do that dark night of the soul work. And just before we started recording, you mentioned that this is part of kind of what you're here to support in the world. And the part that I hold is more of that, once you shed the older versions or the layers or the masks or faces or veils, stepping into that next stage of now becoming who you authentically are. But the part of the shedding is so important, and I think we don't talk about it enough, that if we don't let go and if we don't take the time, and sometimes it is a very it's exactly what you said. It's a grieving. It's a real, you know, taking a moment to actually put to rest that old version of you. If we don't do that properly, we still take parts that are no longer serving us along with us. And so even though we're stepping a little bit more authentically, it's not actually fully embodied. And so I wonder if you can say more about sort of that grieving process and what you said when we first got on. It's like you finding that awareness of this is actually what I'm here to do. Like this, you said a 16-year dark night of the soul.
yeah, yeah, over 16 years now of my dark night journey and just really embodying this realization that, that's I'll always be walking with that. Um, it's an integration, I guess, and that becoming not something that I'm trying to never experience again, or you know not have to um, go into those silent dark places again, but learning how to be there, and just embracing it as the cycle, the process, and that also we're in a collective time of that really potent process. We're in a time where it's heightened, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm laughing because I just came back from a vacation, which almost didn't happen because of so many of these things that have come up around, mother wounds and narcissistic, codependent. I'm going to call them patterns because we're not, the diagnosis. I left medicine because I find the diagnosis actually doesn't help. It just puts a label and puts a, you know. a full life commitment to the thing, but I do feel that moving through these dynamics have been really, it's really been calling forward. Like it's time to let go of the patterns and anything that I've been attached to with that pattern, whether it's that victim mentality of, that poor me, how I grew up, what happened, or, the relationship the way it is now, like whatever's not serving, just stop feeding it instead of making it this big dramatic thing that I continue to feed into. And it's not even that I want to be right or that I want to, it to go any specific way. It's just because that dynamic is so strong, because it's so close, literally in the same home, that it just keeps like sparking. And so being able to step away and think and feel sovereign and realize what it is that I'm contributing that's allowing that to continue to come up, and just stop playing in that space. That's what's been coming up for me personally. And so, meeting with you now is obviously to me, I have full trust in the universal timing of everything. And it really reminds me that there is a grieving process. And so I'm wondering if there's anything that comes up for you in that. And I'm sure the audience can pick up what's shared. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally understand and have my own experiences with that. And I think too, the more complex that pattern is, the more entangled it is, that, the more of a webbing there is, the
Mhm.
stickier it is, and those diagnoses can just pile upon each other in those
Mhm.
complex things.
Mhm.
And then you have like this symptom and that symptom and this symptom, and you're chasing all these symptoms with all these fixes, and um, it that that makes it worse. And because the mental the mental body, the mental energy is can't keep up with that,
Mm.
and that it's not meant to. And so there's a core to it all, and so you work with the core of all those symptoms, and that's all you need to focus on. That's all the mind needs to focus on. And then it becomes this path of core healing work, core, and diagnoses can help. I'm self-diagnosed, with ADHD,
Mhm.
um, and it has that's what my unmasking has taken me to.
Mm.
I haven't been unmasking to get rid of that. Like I had no association with that until I completely unmasked.
Mm.
That has helped me to understand myself in the world and
Mhm.
have more compassion for myself.
Mhm.
And it helps to, even speak of that sometimes too. But
Mhm.
you also have to do the work to not get attached to that label.
Mhm.
Because it's not something that you fix.
That's
And
right.
it's you're you're at the core. You're at the
Mhm.
core, and you're working with um, something much deeper, um, and you then learn how to navigate that with your own systems, which have the intelligence to do so. And
Mhm.
you do that through relationships, through
Mhm.
with the environment, with the elements, with what I call sacred relations.
Mhm.
Um, and then that aligns you with the right people, the right places, the right timing, the right flow, um, and just what you're talking about, trusting the universe, and that's that, trusting yourself, and creating the life and the life path for
Mhm.
yourself that you can thrive within, no matter what the diagnoses are, or the labels. Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of your lived experience for those that are listening and called to this that are like, oh, me too, or maybe me too, or what is it that you live with and what's been supportive for you with AUHD, right? You said?
Yeah, ADHD or AUDHD.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm totally self-diagnosed. So this isn't about, um, a doctor diagnosis or anything. Um, Intuitive, and knowing my journey and
Mhm.
listening. But yeah, I have navigated through major depressive disorder, and hypomania, um, and chronic inflammation, in the form of reactive arthritis and uveitis, um, and yeah, these things as well as complex unknown trauma. Um, and so these are all the labels that I have been living with and working through and working with.
Mhm.
And for me, my whole journey has taken me to the core of it. So I never once have said, I am this. So my whole journey has been about that unifying piece and unity consciousness. Um, and so it really, the first label came about as the chronic inflammation, the reactive arthritis, the uveitis. And then
Mhm.
it wasn't until I got down into, the later years of unmasking, just the last few years, the other ones came, like
Mhm.
hypomania and depression. So I've lived with these things all these years
Mhm.
without any labels because I wasn't paying attention to that. I was just working on a core level. And at that core level, I've been unmasking, not even necessarily knowing that's what you call it at the time, just doing
Mhm.
my healing work as it came up. Um, but unmasking all the while
Mhm.
and letting go of who I think I am, become who I truly am. That's
Mhm.
been my guiding into it and my guiding mantra, I guess, all
Mhm.
these years that has just always been there, and surrendering to the truth of the process
Mhm.
has really kept me um, consistent, I would say, because it definitely has been, that's been probably, one of my most challenging parts of the journey is inconsistency. And when you're, kind of working through so much and so many complexities, there's a lot of up and down, especially with hypomania. There's a lot of ups and downs.
Mhm.
And to be able to actually hold a place of consistency is like, well, that's power. I feel, that
Mhm.
real power, and to be able to hold a consistency with all those diagnoses or labels, that that's a relationship
Mhm.
that you create within yourself. And so, it really, I've always just worked with the emotions and the feelings of all the things. And so they become the pieces that are inside of me, the pieces of what I call the inner pieces of my inner peace.
I love that. And so what is it that signals to you that it's time to do the work? Or what is it that, you find calls you in?
Well, it's all the feeling. It's everything.
Mhm.
I have recreated my life or rearranged my life in a way that naturally creates space for what's rising in any moment.
Yeah.
And so, I live a very different life now than what I used to. Um,
Hmm.
so even in this moment talking to you,
Hmm.
I'm making space for the tenderness that's arising in every moment that I'm feeling, the anxiety. the way, the shaking that might move through my body.
Mm.
I'm not putting it aside
Mm.
and speeding through what I'm saying. I'm breathing with it, and it's informing what I'm saying right now. So I've created this life for myself, learned to live in a way that my anxiety guides me, that my pain
Mm.
is my portal. And so I move through that portal of pain into a space and an environment that alchemizes it. Then I have changed because of that. And so has my environment. I have
Yeah.
grown. And so my capacity grows. And so I can hold more of my presence, of my own love in any
Mm.
given moment. Yeah.
Yeah, something you said that's so important. I volunteer coach for Pain BC and for chronic pain, and I find that that's oftentimes what's missing, and sort of the gift that I've cultivated within myself to survive in life has been that unconditional love that was missing, that non-judgmental kind of that space, right? That people can come and just be 100% themselves, but that's oftentimes the reflection that people take away from, and that's where they experience that painlessness. I had the client say to me, I didn't know my body can experience a lack of pain. I didn't even know it was possible. And so I find that it's something that's calling me to just remind that it is a frequency, and that it is a something that we can choose. And I do somatic alchemy with my clients as well, and that is the shift, right? That's But in order to be able to shift it, something that you said, which is so important, and just something I think we need to be mindful of, especially in this world right now, of the awareness of personal development and all these labels, how they can actually serve us, is exactly that. Getting ourselves to a place where we hold space for that energy to move, instead of, oh, I have an awareness, it's there, sweep it under the rug. Moving on. I feel like that's the personal development world we're in right now. It's like, okay, awareness, it's great. That's the first step. That's like, great, you're at 10%. Now it's time to actually do something with this energy. And it's so beautiful that this awareness has brought you to the place of, like, and it's one thing at a time, like, cleaning out the clutter in the closet, cleaning out the clutter in the contacts, cleaning out the clutter in all of our spaces, to create more space for ourselves, right? For, as you said, that energy to move. Because if it doesn't move, if we don't hold presence and safety for it, whatever it is, it can be rage, it can look however it wants to look. And now there's even, rage rooms that you can go to and smash things. And it's like, when I was a kid growing up, rage was bad. You need to go to anger management. You can't have a reaction to anything. And it's like, we've come so far, I think, in our society. And now it's such an important time for us to hold the space for ourselves individually, to be able to just take a breath and feel and allow all the things to move through. And again, I worked with some 16-year-olds, volleyball elite athletes, and it was really the awareness of, allowing energy to move doesn't mean reacting, but it does mean feeling in your body and your system the things that are coming up, so they can be worked through internally.
Exactly. And the remembrance that we have the systems designed to do that. And
Mm.
it's more than our physical body, but it's all incorporated with our physical body. It's the quantum field, reconnecting to that, um, so that more of our presence can be here, and so that we can, emotion is so big. Emotional energy is big, powerful energy. It's the ocean. It's water. We have the ocean inside of us, um, and that quantum field and that space knows how to hold that through the physical body, or how to move that through the physical body, through our systems, the nervous system, the lymph system, all of our the central nervous system, it all has that intelligence. Um, so what you feel has a place, and your systems know what to do with that. And so, of course, you have the right to pause, to take a breath, to allow your systems to find their way with that.
I'm in so much awareness of it's so funny because, like I said, we just got back from Costa Rica and I work in healthcare transformation in my 9 to 5. And I've just kind of been telling people all week, like, I'm coming back at a sloth's pace. The sloth's imprinted on me. So don't expect anything to happen quickly around me anymore. I am not willing to, one of my colleague, my dyad said to me, "Welcome back to the real world." I'm like, no, I'm not coming back to the real world. Like what we call the real world is so unhealthy and it's impossible to feel. It's impossible to be ourselves. It's impossible to be embodied when we're doing 30 things at the same time, when we're constantly in a rush, when, we're already behind just waking up. Like that's not the real world. I'm sorry to say for most North Americans that we're living this way and we have actually accepted it as normal. Um, that is not nature's pace for sure. That is not the universal pace. That is a falsely created system.
Yeah.
Yes, partially intentionally made to burn us out. And I don't want any part in it anymore. And I'm realizing, like, that, as someone who left medicine because it was out of integrity, this is a part that's so out of integrity. And, I have meetings with physicians all the time that they're doing their doctor work, then they're being leaders in the space, and they're doing, they're at home, their parents, their spouses, they're all these different things. They're wearing 30 different hats, and it's like, why are they all burnt out? Well, I wonder why. It's because, we're trying to be 5 different people all the time at the same time, and it's just not, that's not it.
It's not sustainable. Yeah, and look where we are. We're in a very unsustainable situation with humanity on Earth. And so it has to change. We don't have a choice. Everything's changing.
Yeah.
And so, you start learning how to surrender and just, you know, really working with that practice. And there's lots of ancient ones who guide us in doing so. Um, and there's also Kundalini. Kundalini is very important to be working with right now and building a relationship with. I didn't know anything about Kundalini. I had an awakening in 2010.
Mm.
Just I had my very first soul retrieval in 2008. I didn't really know anything about it. It was a gift from someone. Um, and I believe that's what brought on the Kundalini waking, which happened 2 years later.
Mm.
And I was a different person overnight. Um,
Wow.
and I've never studied it. I've never practiced it. And even to this day, I've just only studied it in my own body. And so you don't have to, follow a certain practice with Kundalini. You don't have to study it in a classroom or whatever. You can just be in relationship with that in your own body. And, you know, how you work with Kundalini is surrender. Once
Mm.
Kundalini starts moving through your body and waking up, it's going to move through all the blocks that are a block to your power, that are blocking your flow of energy through your
Mhm.
systems.
Mhm.
Um, and so that can be really intense.
Mhm.
And when you get to those intense places, that's the medicine, surrender. And so that's just a, very big Mother Earth teaching medicine. Yeah. And it's
And
really helpful right now for
yeah,
humanity. Yeah.
surrender is definitely something we're being asked. Can you say more of maybe for the listeners that are, I'm hearing like, but how? Like how? Tell me how. Show me how. Just how? How do I surrender? I think that's coming up a
Yeah,
lot.
right. Well, I mean, it's a big word. It's a huge word, and it's an intimidating word.
Mhm.
And you do that. You know, you're surrendering. I like to teach about it and share about it in relationship to the mental energy,
Hmm.
because that's what we're really um, kind of caught up in, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, you know, rather than the whole body, just kind of the mental body, because everything is so informational,
Hmm.
and we're moving so quickly, and we don't have the space for embodiment. And so really that's a huge part of our imbalance. And so that's really what needs to come into surrender.
Hmm.
Um, and so you can just really work with it in meditation, in little moments of meditation, just adding a
Hmm.
moment of meditation in your day. That is even 5 minutes to start with,
Hmm.
because it's a practice and you grow with it with more time
Hmm.
and more space gradually. And you work with your subtle energy systems. So you work with your breath and intention. You're setting
Hmm.
intention, what you're going to do. Intention is everything.
Hmm.
Um, and you begin to hold the intention that you're surrendering your mental energy or even your mental thoughts through a unified place within yourself.
Hmm.
And so I work with that place as heart center. And so my practice has been to surrender my energy to heart center, my mental energy to heart center. And heart center unifies everything and it brings everything back into balance. And so that is what you can do. That's how you can
Hmm.
begin that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful for our really heady audience. I'm a super nerd and I love it. And I attract super nerds that want to make sense of everything. Like it's okay for it not to make sense. It's
Yeah.
okay for us, not to understand, um, to wrap our heads around everything and to have all the questions answered. It's okay for there to be questions that are unanswered. And it's okay for, for us not to know. This has been coming up a lot. It's like, I have to know how to do everything. It's no, life is the learning journey where we get to know how. Like none of us were born with these skills and tools of how to be a super high functioning human being. I just want to give permission to all of the heady people out there, my spirit tribe. It's like it's okay not to know. It's okay that questions are unanswered. And it's okay to drop out of that mind, of the needing to know, of the making it make sense. Make it make sense for me. It's like it doesn't have to actually make sense to you. That's the point. As soon as you can let it not make sense, that's when you're there. I think that's
Yeah. I think
helpful.
that's really true. I think
Yeah.
that's really true. And I was having this thought today. I was walking back. I went on a walk this morning, and on my way back, I had this thought of, having the brain that I have, the neurodivergent that I have, I I don't catch everything that people say. I just I get what I get, and
Hmm.
I've learned that that's okay.
Yes.
Because I listen through feeling, and it's just a very different experience for me. And I had this thought that, like, I think as maybe humans, we're not supposed to get every single detail. And that's just creates such overwhelm. We're not computers. And even when, like, someone's giving you directions, right? Like, do this, do that, this, that, all these little details, or that, for me, my brain shuts down.
Yeah.
And, and I would, you know, I'd be better with if you can just draw it out for me,
Hmm.
or I figure it out on my own. But we all have our own navigation systems. We all have our own um, perception
Mhm.
and experience with things, and that's the point.
Mhm.
And when you're in conversation with someone or someone's telling you something, when you start working with your empathic boundary system and you're feeling the
Mhm.
conversation and you're trusting what you're getting, and it's
Mhm.
okay that you don't
Mhm.
remember every little thing. It's okay that you don't get every little detail.
Yeah.
And it becomes more of a felt experience, more of a feeling experience, and there's less tension about, what you were supposed to get, or and that it becomes this whole like how we learn and
Mhm.
changes how we, learn, and that eventually will change all the school systems. But
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that. It's something I shared in my live yesterday around neurodivergence. And I'm like, I usually don't talk about ADHD because I was diagnosed as an adult. I actually self-diagnosed while I was in medical school. And then a really good friend of mine who was a nurse before she came to medical school said, Girl, you need some Ritalin or you need some like Adderall. You need to sit your butt down. And because we were going through hematopoiesis and I was writing down everything on the board of all these different colors and getting up and down and up and down and cooking for people and like doing all the things. And then, why can't I be productive like other people and get ready for a test in, 2 days like everyone else? And it's like, no, I am creative. I learn creatively. I learn through doing and, feeling and teaching and all the things. And so, just yesterday I was saying how important it is that we are aware that neurodivergence, we're receiving so much more of the field than everyone else. So, this way of filtering that you just described to me, the vision that came, it's almost like that is the filter, actually, learning to perceive through a different lens in your system that serves rather than like the systems that we're usually used to visual, auditory, like there's it's super hyper stimulating. And then it's like, oh, you're trying to receive everything. And then at the same time, you're so aware of your output and what's coming through. And it's like all these different ideas were existing in multiple dimensions at the same time. And I think we don't talk about that enough. And so, yeah, I felt safe to bring it here. And it's fun when we get to play with it a little bit. Um, because most people don't get that. They're very like, oh, laser focused. I can pay attention to those little, it's when we're on that surface paradigm. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
easy not to notice. But when we notice everything, it becomes a lot really quickly. So,
Yeah, and we have guides for that too in nature. Like I like to look at hummingbird as a guide in that way.
mm,
Hummingbird is so focused they can hold themselves on a flower in midair, but yet
mm,
they're vibrating. And so that's I like to think of
oh.
hummingbird a lot for what you just described.
Wow, the hummingbird's been coming up so much, even on our vacation. I went for a walk with a friend before we went on vacation, and it's so funny. We were walking, and there was this one hummingbird. It was sitting on a branch, and she's like, "Hummingbirds don't sit like that. That can't be a hummingbird." And sure enough, it was looking for its little partner that wasn't coming. And he was just sitting on a branch. And it was the weirdest thing. We had never seen it before. And so I took a up close, zoomed in video. And sure enough, it was actually a hummingbird that was just sitting on a branch, just waiting for its buddy to come back. And yeah, it's hummingbirds have been coming up a lot. So thank you for sharing that. That is very telling. And yeah, we can be focused while we're vibrating. I like that.
Yeah, it's possible. It's
Mm,
not wrong. It's not wrong.
thank you for sharing. Yeah, I wonder if I feel like we could talk forever and ever. And this is such a beautiful connection. I'm so grateful that we connected, and I'm curious if anybody feels called to connect with you and to reach out for your support. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach me. Well, my website, first of all, is heartfeltwholeself.com. So it's just www.heartfeltwholeself, all one word.com. And then my email is also heartfelt.wholeself@gmail.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, that's beautiful. And then on your website, they can book a call with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, on my website, you can a complimentary call and we can connect and explore and go from there. Yeah, there's different ways to connect with me on my website. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. You said soul retrieval, and I just want to, just because it came up earlier and it's coming up again before we close, someone's listening that wants to know what does that mean? Because I feel like I need it, but I don't know that I need it, but it caught my attention. So can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I spent probably the first half of my journey, going through soul retrievals and bringing my energy back to me. That's really what that's saying, bringing your energy back to you from places where maybe it is outside of you or in another, like if we have trauma, um, that's how we move on. Our soul, part of our soul stays with the trauma, part of our soul stays with
Mm,
that painful experience, because we may have, there could have been a lot of shock that just like whew, separated it
mm,
to cope, basically.
mm,
Um, if you don't have the tools to navigate pain or trauma when it happens, you're going to have a soul loss.
Is that the dissociation that people feel then?
Dissociation.
Yeah. Okay. So leaving part of your soul there, actually.
So leaving part of your soul there,
Mm,
leaving, yeah, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, soul, energy,
mm,
essence,
mm.
and so that is soul retrieval, and it's really just um, kind of arriving into this place where you become your own alchemist with that.
Mhm.
So maybe you do work with soul retrieval for a little bit, but then you're learning how to eventually become your own alchemist of your soul. So those are remembering those tools, so that you don't really experience soul loss ever again, because you know how to process the pain as it happens.
So helpful. Thank you. And I think it's not just processing pain, but it's really holding the vessel for all of it, right? I think pain is the harder one to process and so I think people have a resistance or like a natural evasion of it. But when we're able to process pain, our vessel is actually able to process also joy, also, the other parts of life that we often bypass, like the people that are out there that feel numb, that don't experience, emotions, period. And it's like that shutting down usually happens to keep us safe, right? And I think a lot of physicians experience that actually because you have to show up for your patients. You have to deal with death and loss every day as if it's nothing. But we're human. We feel like every patient that a physician loses is their own response. It's a person that's your responsibility. It's huge, and we don't take the time to grieve. Kind of just have to move on to the next 15-minute block of next person you're trying to save, especially in the emergency room or trauma centers. And so yeah, that's what's coming through for me. I think there's physicians on the call that are probably going to be listening to this that numbness is can actually be supported in the space. So sometimes when we talk about soul retrieval and we talk about things that are a little bit more in the woo space and a little bit more in that kind of spiritual space, we lose the scientist in the room. And my job is to be that bridge, is to really bring people back into the whole of what we are. We're mind, body, spirit, and soul, and the energy really matters. And so I have a community of people who are very heady and scientific, and that's a wonderful thing because we wouldn't be as far as we are in our technology and in our in our evolution in those worlds and those fields. And I think in order to stop the process of burnout and really get into your own body and into your, becoming the healer that you came to be, it really requires that remembrance. It requires soul retrieval. It requires you to hold space for all of yourself and to actually take time each night that you're home and in your safe space to actually process those things. And instead of just sweeping it under the rug and moving on to the next day, you're also neglecting your healing capacity. Like you are being called as a healer into this world. You're not a surgeon or, a medical professional by accident. You are actually here, and the healing gifts through all the different modalities are being asked to be activated, and so many of them are rejected because we're not willing to feel, because we're not willing to do this work, and we've left, as you just beautifully described, Raven, we've left parts of our soul in all of those traumatic experiences instead of, you know, feeling and bringing ourselves along in the journey. And that bringing ourselves along actually helps to alchemize not only our own energy, but as we heal patients, we take some of that with us. And as we alchemize at night, they are actually healed through that work that we are meant to be doing as healers, as physicians, as, soul midwives, as all of these spaces of collective resolution is what comes through. But that next phase of so much of the trauma that's been and is now currently being inflicted on our planet, I think, is because we're not willing to feel that it's still happening. And so each and every single one of us is being called to do our part. So yeah, that's just what comes through right away. I'm like, there's so much moving through.
Yeah, there's so much, I think, um, what you said is just so important. And I also want to say I'm so grateful for the medical industry and for the doctors and for, you know, the 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 amazing things that have come from Western medicine and
Mm.
and where it continues to evolve into. It's very important. And but it's people remembering that they are self-healing systems and to remember their power in that and working in relationship with these amazing people who are doctors and this and that and for doctors, yeah, that with the pace and how we live life, you have to compartmentalize, right? You have to shut down on some level to make it, because we don't have systems set up to support being fully open and in that way.
Mhm.
Um, Honoring the feelings and the emotional body and the spirit body. But you can just you have created a way for yourself that you can get through it, and that's beautiful. And also, there's certain elemental alignments, and there's certain kind of elemental truth with people who become doctors,
Mhm.
and so forth. But you can just even get into a ritual of lighting a candle when you get home from your shift.
Mhm.
Just a real brief honoring of
Mhm.
kind of what your emotional body experienced or maybe even took on in that day. It doesn't have to be any big deal. And that can start to incorporate, and maybe, um, yeah, start to incorporate and integrate. And yeah, when you start to work more with your boundary system, what I call the empathic boundaries, that's how that's what you learn to trust to navigate things. And that's when you can start to live with your heart opened, because you trust your boundary system to navigate all that information, the feelings, the um, connections, and all that, because that's when you work with that, when you start to attune with that, that intelligence is coming back on, and there's strength. It's a strength, really.
Mhm.
And you begin to experience more capacity um, for these experiences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder that it doesn't have to be some big somatic, 3-hour breath work and, all these different things session. It can be as simple as lighting a candle or, even between clients, I wash my hands. Water is extremely purifying and healing, and, opening a window. There's different ways to manage energy that we can implement that's super simple and doesn't require a lot of capacity. So yeah, beautiful reminder. Raven, thank you again so much. I feel like we'll probably definitely have a sequel to this, but I thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you for supporting our humanity through this time. It is a fascinating time to be alive right now, and it is not for the faint of heart, in fact. So I thank you for opening your big, beautiful heart and yeah, being with us today on the podcast, but just so much more. Yeah, my spirit's so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you,
Mhm.
Lisa.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Okay, you as well.
Take care.
Bye bye.